Hey everybody. So let's fire this up and let's get going. A lot to go over. All right. Move this over here. Get this little link going. Bear with me. And we are live. And we'll go here. Hey trader. What's going on? Good morning. Or actually good afternoon. I need another cup of coffee. It's been one of those days. Got a lot done. I have a bunch to go over. I'm just going to let everybody kind of funnel in here, and then we'll go from there, and then we'll start. But I just have a lot to funnel in here, and then we'll get going. So as always, I have a couple that I really want to go through, and then I'll just take questions, and we just stay for a little bit tonight and just kind of hang out, and you can tell me what you really are looking at for the week. I mean, it's a huge earnings week. So just absolutely huge. So we'll dive right into it here. Hey, Tobias. Hey, Oscar. Hey, TJ. Hey, Jerry. So as people start funneling in, I'm just going to start because there's a lot to go over. And as always, just throw out stock symbols that you're interested in, and we'll go from there. So let's get rid of this text, and let me get rid of these lines, and let's just start here. So you have earnings coming up. Okay. And earnings are coming up on Wednesday. So if you're in this, you just really going to have to be careful, right? You're going to have to make a decision on how much room you're going to give it, right? Because it can go violently one way or another. I mean, we know that. The hope is that, we can at least get up to here before the earnings date so you can make a more informed decision about what you want to do. But that's the goal. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. But overall, this is Wednesday, and this is going to be a big move. I actually expect to see it move ahead of earnings because of the delivery sales. So if you see this over, and I think it's going to happen tomorrow, but if you see this over 843.21, you probably want to get involved with it. Okay, I like the trade a lot. I think it's going to be a really good one. I think it's going to work exceptionally well. So let's take a look. Yeah, they might, Jerry. I don't know. It was interesting because the Bitcoin miners should move, right? But I'm going to just check off my list here. But the Bitcoin miners should move, but this is what Bitcoin's doing. So this is where we closed on Friday, and this is where we're at. So I'm curious. The one that I've been trading is this one, and I like the way that it looks. Frankly, I mean, it acted exceptional. But we're going to have to see how Bitcoin opens on Monday and kind of go from there. BITF, Bitfarms. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you can get over these hurdles, right? Like you have to get over some of these lines. You got to get over some of these resistance points. 553, for example, you need to get over that, right? So maybe because this is going to be nothing, and then you're going to have to go right to this. So getting over that would kind of give you that pattern that you're looking for that might get you back in the sixes. I mean, it can work. BT, I haven't looked at in a while. It seems to me that they're just switching out the names. Like this is just riding that wave down. This one seemed to do fairly decent. And all it did, frankly, was run up, reverse, shake me out, and then build this flag. And this one actually, you have earnings Tuesday on this name. So this is going to be really interesting because we got stopped out of it, but the earnings like we're ready to rip. So let's see how. I mean, that's kind of how that pattern's forming. But you're seeing that a lot of those names like CLSK, Like they're trying, and then they hit these key levels, and then they just reject. So let's see how that plays out. I'm not rushing into them based upon where I see Bitcoin right now. CMG and SAM. Yeah, CMG is just a hard one to play unless you're playing earnings, and you're playing the options. Just because it's such a high price stock, and it doesn't really move that much except into what? Earnings, right? So, and it goes violently one way or another, right? Like here on good earnings, we broke down. This was amazing this quarter, right? You can see the growth. Your earnings doubled, right, in 6 months. So this better be a heck of a quarter to keep that up. It better be a heck of a quarter. What day is CMG? That is the 21st. So, it can move, absolutely. You have a little wedge line. Maybe there's a trade here, but again, the only time it really seems to move is on earnings. Sam, that's not Sam's Club, is it? Right? That's Boston Beer, right? Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here. They have just been an outright disaster earnings-wise, haven't they? Here, right? So, it's not something I would be betting on that they're going to have a good quarter. If anything, I would think that it's probably going to go the other way. That's a serious drop to come in one day and you're down 25%. That's a huge drop, Doug. Like, look, 25%. Yeah, I wouldn't be playing with that one. TTD, sure. So, this was one I played a long time ago. You don't have earnings on this one until November 4th. Let's get rid of that data. Let's throw in some indicators here. And let's get rid of these lines. Okay. So you can see that you've been basing, right? And you can see this huge wedge line. I'm going to redraw it in a moment. But you can see that you're finally above what? The 50-day moving average. This 50-day moving average, if you look at the indexes and the stocks that are moving, it's been key. Anything that's getting above that 50-day moving average is moving, like really moving. They're breaking out on it. So, and that usually happens on pullbacks. So this has potential. I'm not crazy about this little breakout bar here forming a, little gravestone. That's what that bar is called, the gravestone doji. But if I can get above that level right there, I'd have an interest, 79.21. If we can get above that, that's kind of interesting. Now, if you think about it that way, that's not exactly where I wanted it. Hold on one second. Let's pull that down. You can see that trend that you broke. And you broke that trend. And then on top of breaking that trend, you've gotten above a higher high, right? So that is interesting. And you're above the 50-day. If you clear 79.21, that can work. That can work for TD Day if you can get above that. The report last quarter, right? Let's go through that. Was here. It was actually decent, and it just didn't act well on it. But let's see what happens here. I like the name a lot. I like the fundamentals, but see how it trades. Doug, I would really like to see how Sam does with earnings wise. But hey, baby. So Fudu and LABU. So Fudu, I would be very cautious of, just because when someone comes out and starts talking about regulatory concerns, this can get a lot uglier, like a lot uglier. So, this can head back into the, 30s or 40s fairly easy. You have no support until $49. So I would be very cautious on that, right? If you break that low, you're just going to get a whole other wave of buying, just a whole other wave of buying. You're just going to start seeing more and more of this. Oops, that's the wrong one. Tiger, got Tesla on the brain. And same thing here. You break 760, you're going to $5. So I would just be really very careful with those names. They're not names I would be buying. I would not be trying to, chase that. I've been ever since this move happened, and let's talk about this for a moment, then we'll get into that because it's a really good point to make. See this issue? See this bearish engulfing on the daily? I wouldn't touch this. I mean, here you are on the weekly. It's clearly breaking down and just basing. Now you're below the 200 week moving average. You know, here's where you are on the index in and of itself. So it's clearly underperforming the index. EIB is one of these that is also mimics the IBB, right? And it seems to be a closer indication of what's going on than LABU. I don't know what they did here, what Direxion did, and what the differences are off the top of my head. I know one has CRISPR and one doesn't have CRISPR, right? But I don't remember other than that what the major differences are between the two. So let's just keep going. But in regards to like Fudu and all those names, like you have to remember something, just so everyone's clear on this. Ever since they came out, ever since the government came out and delisted them from the App Store, ever since that happened, okay, it's been an issue. Okay. So what are we trying to do here? You're trying to get ahead of these things, right? Again, this is one I constantly short. I just think that whole space, you just need to be really, really careful, that whole space. So, but NTAP. That's a nice looking chart. So here's my trading range. Let's get rid of this. Let's start over. Kind of like when they're gold, and I don't want to go through and change all the colors. I like this a lot. So this is probably earnings, right? Okay. So, and you can see how you act on earnings. That's what's so important, like to make sure you have the right position, because it still worked closing here and gapping. But that day that you bought it, not so good. So you can see how you ran up, closed, shook everybody out on the bottom right here, right? And then you went back up to the top, rejected, morning star, breaks out, breaks down, right? Evening star, boom. I like this a lot, because you keep testing, right? First time, no. Second time, no. Yeah, I mean, now you have a little base here. And hold on. So this could really work. There's a couple things just be aware of. You have this trend line here. Now, I'm not saying you can't flip it. I mean, flipped it and went crazy. Net Cloudflare flipped it, went crazy. So, I mean, maybe, just watch that level, 97. It's been respecting it all throughout here. So just watch that level, 97. But I could see why you're looking at this. I get it. I mean, I definitely get that trade. That's definitely one to keep on your radar. And I'm not saying it can't flip this, right? A lot of these stocks are doing that. Okay. A lot of them are. I mean, this is what happened when it failed here, came all the way back down again, and then got to it and broke it. This is what Net did since that break. That's what I'm saying. When you break these upper trend lines, it's game on. MDT. Hey, TJ. Oh, let's get going here. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really crazy about that. I'm not even crazy the way that I drew that. I don't like all those wicks. If I just put this here, it's going to give me the same trajectory, right? You can just see that by looking at it. I'm not really crazy about that at all. So let's throw in some indicators, and you see how I mean, you're through the 21, you're through the 200, which is nice. You're making progress. That's not an earnings move. It's some kind of, bounce off of being oversold, maybe. I'm reversing. Yeah. So could this continue? Sure. But it's not something that I'd be jumping into. Let me just throw that up. Yeah. You have a lot of resistance in there and a lot of supply. I'd be really careful. It's not something I'd be jumping into. I mean, maybe if you can get above this 50-day, I might have an interest in it. But other than that, there's way better names out there right now. What's going on, Dan? Long energy and Tesla. Um, Dan, I have a fairly large position for my portfolio in, you know, I use two strategies, right? I have a long-term account that is much longer term, and I have a short-term account, right? It's the easiest way to explain how I set up. But let me just walk through this. Like, I have a fairly large position in the short-term account for Tesla. I don't see any reason to do anything. But I don't know your cost. It's none of my business, unless you want to tell us. But um, I I think that you could break 900 before earnings, and I think it could be like if this does what I think it can do, I think that this can go significantly higher. Um, it's very clear who's won the EV challenge, who's won the EV market at this point, right? I mean, I think there's going to be two major companies, and everyone else is going to, kind of fit in. But with that said, I would not be betting against this going into earnings. I mean, since May, you've seen nothing but accumulation. And I think that's going to lead to a very interesting earnings quarter, to be quite honest. Earnings are Wednesday. Just be aware of that. It's going to go violently one way or another. It always, I shouldn't say always, because sometimes, because we all think it's going to have these huge moves. Here, like, look, we all think it's going to have these huge moves on earnings. So sometimes, yes, you come down. Other times you kind of come down, but we're going to have to see. I mean, it's usually a run up into earnings and then it comes back, but you just don't know. It's like that until it's not like that. And some good news, something comes out and it could just rock. I mean, it looks perfect. So I'd be really careful there. Energy, the difference is if tech starts rallying, energy is going to fail. Just because people are going to just get out of the space and go into something else. Energy's oil's at what, $80? Is it going to 100? Maybe it's going to, maybe it's going to double. You really need oil to double, or like you need oil to go up. I shouldn't say you need it to double. You need it to go up. You need it to go up incrementally. And right now, I'm not so sure of that. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. I'm really not so sure of that. So we're going to have to see how that goes and how that all plays out. So I'm not entirely sure that we're going to see oil where we think we are. I mean, I have oil positions, but I'm just not sure of it yet. So let's just keep going. I'm just, somehow I jumped ahead here. Here we go, Oscar. I thought I saw you in here. All right, NOV. I'm trying to go in order, everyone. I'm going to go a little faster through these because there's a bunch of names that I want to make sure that I cover for everybody this week so we can just look at some key levels. NOV. Okay, so here's your lines, right? You can kind of see that we've kind of outgrown those. Get rid of them. But you've done what you were supposed to do, Oscar. You had to get through this 1438, and we've done that, haven't we? And we came back down, tested it, filled back down here, filled that evening star pattern pretty specifically, came out. Now we're breaking out again. Here we go. So it's very possible that this goes. Let's take a look at some indicators because this is really shaping up. Yeah, I don't have any volume, so that's going to be a concern of mine. I'd like to see volume, and I just don't have any. But this could continue. You could get back up to here, $17, $18. That's for sure. It definitely could happen. Hey, SF. You Niners fan? IIPR and TSM. So IIPR is a good segue into something I want to talk about, right? So you're starting to see this again where we ran up, right? Pulled back, tried to get up, pulled back, right? So I literally just did a video on this, on like resistance points. It's actually in the group. I actually released it today if you want to watch it. But you could see how you're respecting those support and resistance lines. I'm not so sure you're going to break the 50-day moving average again. If I was long this and I broke the 50-day moving average, right, and it got me to here again, I'd get out and let it play itself out because you're starting to get here. If you clean all this up, right, let's clean it all out, right? Let's clean this out too because we don't need this anymore. We're going to remove everything. And let's just look at what's going on. What's the trend? Well, the trend's changing, right? So here's our trend line. We touched it, rejected. We opened over it like it was going to go, and we rejected. This usually does not end well, right? So I would argue that if you broke these levels, you'd probably want to be out of it and find another spot. These are kind of trading a little wonky right now, aren't they? For, rates are going up. So why is this one coming in, right? So something to consider. I don't know if they're more tied to cost or what it is. Taiwan Semi gives me a really good segue to a couple names I want to cover tonight. So, as I stated before with Taiwan Semi, you have to buy it when it's ugly and nobody wants it. Essentially, it is a value stock. Look, we can keep the moving averages in, but you might want to remember this. Moving averages are essentially pointless when you're basing, right? They're doing absolutely nothing here. Forget about moving averages when you're basing and just look at support and resistance lines, okay? So if you looked at support and resistance lines and knew how to draw them properly, you can see, once this is set, you can see the trade, right? So you know where your support line is, right? So you can start trading off of it, right? And this is like a minor resistance line, and this is your major resistance line. I'm through this, and I'm heading back up to here is what I think. I think you're heading back to 121.59, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do there. Let's see when earnings are. Earnings just came out. Yeah, I don't see a problem here. And frankly, Taiwan Semi is going to move on these two companies this week. It's one of the reasons. So this is when we traded before in the newsletter. We're up at we made $56 off of it a share. So, but I'm watching this one because you have earnings next week or this week. I'm sorry. It's Sunday now, finally. So you have earnings on the 20th. So I'm looking for this to break these levels and go. And I think it's a real possibility. So I really like this name. And I think that semis are kind of setting up here for a surprise week. Now maybe I'm surprised and I'm wrong because I won't trade them on that until I see it. But here's Lam Research. And this has just been a disaster. But then you look at it, right, and go, has it been a disaster? Well, really all we've done is, let's get rid of all these lines. Really all we've done is what? Support and resistance for a year. That's all we've done on Lam Research. So it's not really an absolute utter disaster, right? When you start understanding how to put support and resistance lines in. So knowing that, what do you do here? You sit back, you watch, you wait, see how earnings come out, but this can run up to there as well. So back to your Taiwan Semi, both of those companies I just went over are coming out with earnings this week. You need to focus on this. And I think you can get up to this 121 level. But once you do get up to that level, then you're going to have to take a look at it and figure out what to do. All right. Fuel cell. All right. Fuel cell. So here's your line. There's your rejection. I actually think that they're going to have to get something done in the House and the Senate. And we pulled back right to support line on plug. I would tell you to focus on plug more than the other one. But this rejection and bearish engulfing for that sector, right, tells you that people think that this is a one-hit wonder. And that's what they're trading. Okay. See how you're at those levels? Instead, you might want to see if these act a little bit better. So far, they're not. And I know a lot of people are playing these. But so far, you've rejected here. They're looking at playing the like the ENPH and these names. And yeah, they're kind of basing, but you're also kind of red the whole time too, right? So I'm not so sure that trade's going to play out, or if it is, maybe it's just basing a little bit here. But for your fuel cell, I would watch. I'd watch that. Until I'm through $8, I wouldn't go near it. So SMLR. Okay. So here you are. It's okay. I don't like all these wicks. You seem to be holding that level or trying to hold that level. I don't know if this is real. Let's take a look at that. So that's probably not real. Right. So let me just check one more thing. Yeah, that's probably not actual. Might be just a bad print or somebody with fat fingers. So I really wouldn't worry about that. I would worry about this in the break. So see how that goes. But overall, it's not something I concern myself with. That said, I mean, it looks okay. I just don't like those kinds of wicks. Yeah, I think you have to watch Hut. Like I have Hut on my list, Brett, and let's just kind of go through it, right? What's going to make Hut go up, right? Bitcoin. Okay. So Bitcoin better be higher than here if Hut's going to go up, open up tomorrow, right? You need to really watch what's happening here. This seems to be forming a flag and getting ready to build and go. Well, let's see if that happens. But I would have expected follow through already, and I'm kind of surprised that we didn't get it, and that we've kind of developed this. This is not really what you want to see, right? I mean, it's not really what you want to see at all, right? That you can't close above these peaks. That's not really great. So, again, Brett, we know we talked about Morrow on Friday and Hut, and I like the name, but it's a really simple trade for me. Get through this, and then I'm using short-term charts to trade it. Right, I'm going to be using 15-minute, 1-minute charts to trade it. I'm not going to be position building in something that's sitting there like this until I see a real breakout on Bitcoin. And if I see that real breakout on Bitcoin, well, then I'm probably going to go, heavy into these names, but not until I see that. You need to see the move. Hey, Jerry, INMD, a firm. So INMD was one that I actually went over on Friday, and then I just had too many others going on, and I just kind of missed this break. I really wanted this. I really wanted this name. I'm glad I'm not in it now because you can see the rejection, right? So if you can always draw a wedge line. The easiest way to draw a wedge line is this, just so you can see it. Right, there's your wedge line. And so now you know where your level is, right? You know what you might respect. So, right. So now I got to watch it. I mean, this was the break I wanted right off of here, and I just missed it. Looks like it was Wednesday, not Friday. All these days blend together last week. It was so intense, the trading. It's actually a lot of fun, but it becomes a blur. So what you're seeing here is 89, 38, 79. I think you're in great shape here. I don't see a reason to do anything. Right? If you're in it, you're in it. If you're not, you're not. And the other one was a firm. Look, I like this. I think people need a little bit of a wake up call, right? Like this might just not go straight up, And I did put a video out today on resistance lines. I mean, it's respecting its resistance line, right? This is usually where you sell and then find another spot to buy it. It's not really where you should be putting on huge positions here. Now you can play the breakout if the breakout works. Right now, it's not working. It's rejecting, right? You have a wick here, you have a doji here, and you have an inverted hammer here. Not something I'm chasing while it's sitting on that line. That could all change tomorrow, right? And I could take these out. But until I do, I think you could head back to this level, 134, 135, right? I mean, look at this, look at this, darling, and everybody was all over it, right? And the chart looks beautiful, right? Here's your cup. But what are you going to do here now? Right? Now you got that wick. You break this, you're going to 346. So, everyone needs to kind of be a little careful there. CEI and NE. Hey, JD. So CEI, yeah, I mean, maybe it's done, maybe it's not done. I don't know, JD. Look, it's a pump name. They're going to pump it on social media. Maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't. You want me to give you some sign that it could come back? It is completely and utterly respecting one thing, right? And the stock has been doing that with these levels. Okay, respecting these levels over and over again. It's respecting this fib level, right? And I recommend that you use fib levels as an area, not an exact. So what you're going to see here is not only that, you have a bearish or a bullish engulfing right here. See that bullish engulfing? So what that's going to do is that's going to drive us higher, right? So that's going to tell me that I could get up to like 213 maybe. So maybe if I flip the high of this bar, which is 146, take it over this level, let's just call it 150, okay? Get over 150 and maybe you go higher, okay? Maybe it goes higher. And that's how you could play it. And you could, say that it's off of this trend line and everything else, but really you're just playing to see if they're going to try to run it again. And then the other one was any. Yeah, I mean, this was one that did pretty much what we talked about, right? Here was our range. We talked about this and buying it back close to here, or buying it when it breaks out here. So far, you haven't broken out above here, right? You can't close above that level. For whatever reason, you can't close above 834 yet, and you haven't broken this yet. So essentially, right, you still have inside days on this bar, on all these bodies. So nothing's changed, nothing at all to me. I'm more interested in the body than the wicks because, as everybody knows, I say wicks are price rejection. So I would watch that. Now, if I can close above this 834 on any, I'll go to 942. I'll go right there. So Prague, P-R-O-G. So, I mean, like that's pretty clean what's going on there, right? So whatever bar goes the first way is going to win. So, I mean, there's really no other way to say it. Like, this is what you're dealing with. Okay. Here's your trend line. Right. Here's your trend line. So really what you're dealing with is whatever bar breaks out of this is where you're going to see the action. So if you break above this 228, you're probably going to go at least up to 272, right? And if you break this to the downside, you're at least going to go to 190. So, I mean, that's how I would play it. Longer term, I mean, I can't get really excited about names like this, but here, look, right? I mean, you've just been trading straight down since you came out. So, and I'm not saying that it can't turn. It's going to turn at some point or it's going to go out, right? And you're finally trying to get over a level. Like, look at this level right here. That's why it's so important to look at different time frames, right? So, I mean, you can see how if you can close on the weekly above that level, that would not be the worst thing in the world. Yeah, Jerry, I kind of like it, I guess, but I mean, you kind of have to watch. I think you have to be really careful here. I don't know many people that are going to want to spend $400 for that stock. Hourly wise, I mean, here's your hourly bar. This is the stuff people need to watch, right? Like here you open on the hourly, right? Boop, there we go. And let's go to here. Get a price. Okay. So just to kind of put it in perspective, I mean, there's your hourly bar. You've never broken it. Whichever way that breaks, it's going to tell you who's going to win, at least in the short term. UEC. So, I mean, you're fighting that level again, right? How far back does this go? Let's take a look. Let's go to the daily. So this 347, you keep fighting that level. You can't get through it. So they all look the same. All these charts look the same. Look. I mean, they're all rejecting all over the place. So I'd be really careful with these names until you see what they're going to do. I mean, they all look the same. We don't even need these. Let's keep going. I won't have that symbol, Ramon, unless it's I'm assuming that's not here. If it is here, just throw it out. Oracle's always a slow grinder. I have stated the best way to play Oracle is very simple. You buy it when it goes down on earnings. That's when you buy Oracle. Look, earnings, misses earnings, hits a new high. Misses earnings, you buy it, hits a new high. Misses earnings, hits a new high. Okay. I mean, it is constant, right? Earnings opens up, closes all the way down, right? This one, it kind of sat there. So, I mean, you can literally set your watch to it. Like, it's crazy. It's just the way that it trades. I don't know if it's because, Larry Ellison sells a huge block right after the earnings, and that's what does it. I have no idea, but it has always been like this for years, and it's like the best way to play it. If you really want to buy it, you buy it the next day when it crashes after earnings, and then you just hold it for like a week or a month or two, or ever how long you want to hold it. But it never fails, right? Never fails. Roku and Snow. Roku, Roku. I was hoping that it would work. It does not seem to be wanting to work, right? So I really have to watch that. We have to really watch that tomorrow because it's not acting right. It's not acting right at all. It should have had follow through, and it had none. We had no follow through whatsoever on it, so it's kind of disappointing. Snow I like a lot. I think Snow's hanging in there. I think Snow's doing a great job. Let's get rid of these. Let's throw in the indicators. So 327.41, right? We're holding that. I think you're getting the 360. I like this chart. I think it looks great, Doug. I really do. I don't think I have those symbols. If you have symbols, Ramon, and they're U.S. equities, throw it out. Hi, Param. Sure, of course. Ford and Airbnb. Yes, let's do it. So Ford, okay. I mean, this is one we've been talking about for some time, and let's just clean all this up. Okay. So as soon as you got close to this 200-day, right, you kind of filled in, got close to the 200-day. That was it. Then you form this wedge line, and then you've just been going up ever since. Look, if you have a very long-term mindset, I would strongly recommend you put some of this away and forget that you own it. They're just going to dominate. Like, they just are absolutely going to dominate the pickup market, and the Broncos flying off too on EVs. No one's going to be even close to what they're going to do. It's if you look at any video, you can just see what they're doing with their F-150. It's insane. So it's absolutely insane. And I don't know why people, if you think about who really buys a truck, not the people that want you to go out there and, right, say, oh, I own this fancy one or that fancy one, but who really buys a truck? It's a contractor, right? I mean, they're the number one buyers of these trucks. And you should go look at the orders. I mean, Ford has more pre-orders than all other EV companies combined. I say it all the time. What do you do with it now? This is a 21-year downward trend that we broke here. Okay. I mean, to me, this is an absolute utter layup. That's crazy. Back under 5. Wow. This went down to $1. Wow. We went down to $1. Isn't that crazy? In 08. So anyway, from here, I think you're fine. I mean, you broke out. Well, look, if you want to play the technicals on it, you have to get above 16.5, and then it can go. But overall, I think you're in good shape. I mean, I like the name a lot. I don't see them going anywhere. I just see it going up, Haram. But, you have to be realizing you own a value name, and it's going to trade like one. So when it gets too ahead of itself, people are going to sell it. I tried to play this. It just completely rejected. So my level was to be stopped around 170. And I played this break. This was the reversal I got on my break, which I just hate those days. But they happen. And there's not much you can do about it. So what you see with days like this, okay, is that when you break up and you go, you really just want to watch, okay? So for me, watching to see if this is going to go or not going to go, that's all you're really looking for. What does that mean? It just means that when it breaks down like this, comes back in, you're kind of setting yourself up. I would not be going near this now. It's clearly rejected too many times. Now I have a rising wedge over here that could snap. CELH. Well, that's kind of breaking down, isn't it? Well, I would not go near this. This is, I like the name a lot, but, and look, again, support and resistance lines. Okay. You need to hold here. So if you break that, you have a real problem on your hands. So let's start looking at indicators, right? So you broke the 21 and closed below the 21. You have not done that before, right? You have not really done that to any magnitude in here, right? We kind of argue there's one here, then this one, but when was the last time we closed below the 21 day here? So I would watch to see if you break that 50 day, because this to me is setting up like they're having some kind of issue and people are aware of it, or it got ahead of itself somehow. But I would look for this to come in and then correct, build a base and then correct. This is the way it's acting is not good. You know, this is doing the exact opposite of what UPST did, which was just break out and run. SAIA. Let's take a look at that one. SAIA. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see any volume. But look, I mean, that's very nice, right? And you have a clear shot at going up here, but you just don't have any volume. So it's not something I would be jumping into, but it looks great. And here's your trend. I mean, look. But there's nobody buying it. I mean, you have a lot of room to move on that, like a lot. But I don't see any volume. So this might be short-lived. Steve, yeah, I would stay away from them now. I would not go near them. I'm going to have to jump ahead here. So I'm jumping ahead. If I missed your order or your question, please let me know. Thanks. So, because I just realized how far behind I was. G-Sky. Let's get to G-Sky. Yep. I mean, I can see why you're looking this. Oh, what field is this? And look at that weekly. Wow. Yeah, this is very interesting to me. I don't know what space they're in. I don't know why they had this move. I don't know anything about it, but that's not what we're looking for. This is what we're looking for. 12. Yeah, I would definitely watch this one. I mean, something's going on there. I don't really know what they do, but I like that a lot. And I really like this. I mean, I really like this chart. Look at this. That's perfect. I mean, that really is. Look at the volume, the break, everything. Now you're here and you broke the higher high. I mean, this can just start taking out levels, 13, 14, 16 and a half. Like this could really go. I like that a lot. That's probably the best one I've seen tonight. Let's keep going. SLI, LSPD. SLI. So, I mean, there's not really much to say, right? I mean, it's just been on an absolute tear. Look at that. Maybe that continues. I'm not really sure. 930, but maybe that continues. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not really sure. But that's a heck of a tear, and that's a heck of a volume. Maybe if you came back down to this level, maybe that would be interesting. But until then, I wouldn't chase it. So AEHR, hey Angela, I like AEHR a lot. We have a position in it in the newsletter. We've had it for some time. We got in at 14. I think it's the second or third time we traded it. I mean, it's just classic, right? Look at your moving averages. See how they're expanding away from one another. Here's your upper channel. You flipped it, right? You closed at an all-time high, even though other small cap names came in on Friday. This one did not. This one closed at an all-time high and made an all-time high. So I really like this name. And I think this is going to continue for some time. I think we're going to find out that this was grossly underpriced, right? This reminds me a lot of like watching like a Fastly or something like that. It's definitely something I'd want to be involved with. So there's no question about it. Well, I did NTAP. I really like it. It's in here. Just trying to jump around a little bit because I missed a bunch. So let's just get into it. SSTK. Yeah, I mean, that looks great. No volume, but I like that pattern. And I like how you keep stepping me up. And then you have a trend line right here. I mean, you don't have much to go, but I'd like to see volume. I'd like to see something like this or some of these spikes. And I just don't see it. But overall, I like the name. Let's see. LACURA. Let's see. What would I do with Tesla? I think all those aluminum companies you have to look at. Someone showed me another one today. The name escapes me really quickly, but I would look at all those aluminum companies after what Alcoa did. They all look like they're going to break out. So let me just get back to this level and we'll start going from there. Thank you for reposting. LAC makes my life so much easier. So LAC, look, Lithium America. I mean, I guess we're going through a lithium problem. I guess that's our issue. But this is really shaping up very nicely. You know, I'd like to see more volume, but look at that. That's beautiful. But you have some key levels to get through, right? You're getting through that one. Can you get through this? Maybe. But if I pop out of this little thing here, look, I'll just give you a really quick tip. If I pop out of this little flag before it develops, like if I get above this 2586, okay, it's probably going to go, right? These little small flags, after you like 3 days, they tend to run. So just watch that tomorrow, right? I mean, it's pretty clear what you're looking at, right? Your level. Let's just keep going. LACURA. I watch these, like to me, they're just, that must be where we were before with that. Yep, that's with the pre and post data. So same thing. I would just watch that. You know, all these uranium stocks, Alberto, are rejecting. So I would watch that. Open. I was going to say that doesn't look like the stock I have. So I'm not really crazy about the action on Friday, but it was pretty typical for the group. Overall, I think we're fine. I just want to watch this 2265. If that breaks, I might just move on. Technically, just disclosure, I have a position in this, but the volume, I expected the volume to continue to increase and with the little uptick, and it's actually doing the exact opposite. So let's see how it plays out. I'm not crazy about Friday and Thursday's action at all. Do you think that small caps? I think it's going back to the big boys. I think it's going back to the big boys. I really do. You know, look what happened on Friday. So this is the Russell on Friday, right? So this was the level we had to get over, right? Essentially, it's 228 is really where the number is. Well, we'll call it what it is, okay? So they open us up over it, so we think we're going to go, and then they run us down all day right into the close, right? And they run us down to the low, and they close us right on the wedge line. So, you know, that's not something you usually reverse from right away. That's usually the beginning of one of these kinds of moves down. Frankly, see these? That's usually when this happens. So, like here. So I'm really very curious at what happens tomorrow with this. It's the worst performing out of the group. I think you're swinging to the big boys. No, I have Netflix on the list. I do want to go through it. So, but I think you're swinging to the big boys. Yeah, I do. I think I think it's going to be Netflix, Tesla this week. Maybe Snap, but I'm not so sure. But I think like the really big stocks, I think it's going to be their week. Yeah, I did fairly well. I didn't do anything with Amazon. I missed that one. Tesla, I did okay with. I had a really nice week with Tesla. Uh, Netflix, I mean, here's your issue, right? And we can get rid of this one because it's not really that relevant. And let's just clean this up a little bit. So you have, it might just be easier to do this and clean them all up. So you have earnings coming out, okay? And now they're talking about this Squid Game movie making more than $900 million. It's the single greatest grossing movie they've ever had or series they've ever had. And it's an excellent series if anybody hasn't watched it, but it's not for the squeamish. I'll leave it at that. I don't really understand the pattern. I'm not getting buyers. I'm getting sellers all in here. Every day is selling. So in the earnings is going to be very interesting, and then I have this doji and then I have a bearish engulfing. Like it's just not what I would expect. Now you're still basing in this level, but when they're all red like that, it just makes me stay away. So maybe I'll play it after hours for earnings, but I'm not going to buy that before earnings. It's not something I would do. Yeah, Everest, to answer your question, I think Tesla's could be, let me state this. I have a fairly large position. So, I mean, yes, I think Tesla can I think it can hit highs before earnings. I think it could hit highs tomorrow. I mean, it's very clear that people are trying to front run this, right? It's very clear people are trying to get in this. Like the volume's increasing, right? All of a sudden, we're starting to hit the average volume again, right? On the green, right? The greens are bigger than the reds. That's accumulation. So, and you can see it here, it started here. So, and now I have a bar like this going into earnings. Open was what? The low. High was what? The close. I mean, that's pretty clean stuff, right? So to me, that means, yeah, I could head up here to 900. I mean, it's only 5%. You're looking for a 5% move, right? Roughly 5%, more like 6%. But before earnings, 2% a day. I mean, I did 3% Friday, 3.5% Friday. So yeah, I think you could be there before. I got to remember to take these down before earnings. I do. I think you could be there. I don't think there's any question about it. Apple, yeah, I like Apple a lot. I mean, we just bought it on when they pre-announced, just based on the action. I mean, it was a pretty clear reversal right here, right? So we bought it that day, and we've been doing well with it ever since. I mean, there's really very little to do with it now. I mean, we got very fortunate in our buy. I'll just stay with it and see how it acts to here, and then we'll make a decision. But this could be the beginning of it rallying into the Christmas season. So let's see what happens, and we'll go from there. But it definitely could be something that continues. Sophie? I don't know that he ever splits it again. I don't know that he ever splits that again. I really don't. Sophie, I just was disappointing, right? You had the breakout, you had this huge volume, and then it just kind of went away. So it looks to me like it wants to come in, right? Doji bar, right? Hammer that's not played properly, inverted hammer now that fills in where this was. It's not really exciting, right? It's got some work to do here now. So I wouldn't be too crazy to get into that at this point. I don't know that he ever, this was the question. I don't know that he ever splits it again. Right. I don't know. I don't know if he ever does that. I think he had to split it to get into the S&P, or I'm not really sure why he did it. But I'm surprised that he did do it. So anyway, what you're seeing here, very clean, right? But you might pull back. I would watch that. I mean, I would really watch Sophie here. BAC, look, Depends on how you look at these names. This is not something I'm going to be rushing into, to say the least. It really isn't. It's not something that's very interesting to me. Right? I mean, there's your break. There's your breakout. That whole space is probably moving, right? So yeah, the whole space is breaking out. I mean, JP Morgan. I mean, they're all going to move. Goldman was the one I really liked. That broke out the other day, right? There was a trend line. We were looking at that last week. Broke out on Friday. Closed above the 50-day. I would focus on like that name. Earnings are behind it, right? We sold down on earnings and then back up. I'd be more interested in owning Goldman. I think there's more upside right here. That's not really what I'm looking for. I mean, I get it, but when you buy these on breakouts, they rarely, like you buy the breakout, they don't last, right? You can see that. So it's not something I would be chasing. But do I think it can get back to 2006 highs? No, I think it's going to take a long time for this to get back to like this kind of level. That's going to take a while. I don't see why they're going to get there, right? I just don't see it. It's going to take some time. It really is. I think it's going to take more time than people think. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong. So I don't know. I'd be careful with I'd be really careful with the apps here. I mean, we have good positions off from the newsletter, but you're really going to want to watch that inverted hammer. Like that was not the greatest action on Friday, right? It's not the action I wanted on Friday, right? I mean, we were at one point we were up, right, $4 or $5, and then it just came back in. So it's not something I'm crazy about at all. So, and there are two names I'm going to want to go over before we wrap it up. I'm going to go over them now, and I'm going to recommend that you guys put them on your watch list. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where you start looking at it, right? So you look at it when it pulls back to a support level, it's trading under it, starting to break the 21-day. I bet your 8's crossed too, right? Yep, your 8's getting ready to cross your 21-day. So you like that action. Get back over 200. And then after 200, watch how it responds to the 50-day, because it will respond to the 50-day. And if it starts closing over that, then you can start working your way up. That can work. That can work here. That can work here. So let's see what happens with it. But two names very quickly before I wrap it up. Look, this is coming out at Thursday with earnings. Okay. This is going to move all of those names, all the Carvanias of the world. This is going to be like your first data point in, right? So it's coming. So you're going to want to put that on your radar, and they're all going to move. And they're big names. Like they're going to take big swings on this, right? So just be aware of it. So, I mean, we've been trading them based upon the CPI data. And if that's going to start coming in, then this is what you're going to start dealing with. But I don't know that they're over or they're just pulling back. So watch this one Thursday, and then watch this one. I mentioned it in the top 10 video this week, but really watch this tomorrow. If this gets through 79.09 with earnings coming out Thursday, they're going to run it into earnings. That's my opinion. I think that's actually what they were doing on Friday. They were testing it on Friday because it only went up for 5 minutes. So just watch these levels and go from there. Yeah, I don't really understand I don't really understand why they're buying that. I really don't. Maybe it works. If it does, good for them. I mean, it's not something I'm going near. So it's very difficult to understand. They're going off a basis of, in my opinion, of thinking you're at a level playing field, and you're not at a level playing field. They have a government that can do whatever they want. So it's kind of an issue. And it makes me stay on the other side of the trade. I've been on the other side of this trade. If you go look at my Twitter account since about here, I mean, every bounce I just sell. And I know people are making money on the long side, and they're sure making money on the long side now, but in the long run, I just wouldn't want to be there. So I'd be really careful. For those that don't remember, I don't know if you remember, like this happened with Luckin Coffee. And I'm not saying it's going to. Is that one even still around? Did they ever redo that symbol? Let me see. Yeah. I mean, they made it this, right? And they put it on the OTC. So I don't know if you guys remember this one or not, but this was going to be the Starbucks killer. And then we came in one day and found out that they weren't really making coffee. So, you really got to be careful, really careful, because they were very loose on their regulations for putting these companies here. So, but it's definitely fundamental with the way he's looking. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely fundamental, but they have technicians. Affirm and USPT. All right, let's run through these real quick, and then I'm going to hop off here. So 146.90 is the level. You're unable to break it. I'd watch this, right? Bonk, 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 right? You can't break it. So I'd be careful here. If I can't break that, I'm going to come back down to the 8-day or maybe this lower trading range. Okay? That's how I would look at it. UPST. So here with UPST, you look like you're heading up, right? That reversal, I'd watch that reversal. And the one thing that I look at it, the one thing I would really look at with this is look at this on the hourly. And I know people are looking at this going, oh, it looks great. That was your hourly range. Okay. So if you look at your hourly range, right, you've just been walking yourself down the whole time. So now you're going to have to see, what happens with it. But it's not something I would chase. So that's it, everybody. I am out of here. Everyone have a great evening. And do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you don't, and please click the like. I'm trying to get in front of as many people as possible. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.